Oh, hey.
Hello?
Jeremiah, you're on mute.
Godfather on mute.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second edition of Fuente and Meerapfel presents Meet the Professor.
All right.
What's up? What's up? What's up?
Guys?
Hello.
Hi, everybody.
What's up?
On today's show, a very special topic. The professor is going to be teaching us about strength. Professor?
Hello, everybody. I hope everybody's well. Had a great weekend. We're here on our second episode of Meet the Professor. And that's one of the topics I always love to talk about because there's a lot of confusion and misconceptions about strength and the way a lot of people pick up the strength. So for a guy who doesn't retrohale, he's going to probably pick up the strength. Sometimes people pick it up here. They pick it up in their stomachs and things like that. But when you really pick up the strength is when you retrohale and you blow it through the nose. That's when you really, really pick up the strength. So a lot of people, remember what I said on the first show, people tend to confuse flavor with strength. You could have a mild cigar that's full flavor, and you can have a cigar that's just strength. You always want strength to be at a point where it doesn't overtake or override the amount of the flavor. Strength, it was all going to depend also on the tolerance scale of any person. Like Jeremiah and Carlito, I know that at 7 o'clock in the morning, after coffee and toast, they can go and have a full body cigar and be at ease. Yes or not?
Well, most days that's correct, my friend. But it's not about me. Melanie, how is it on your side? Do you wake up and smoke an Angel Share, an Opus X, an Añejo?
I really hope so. I want to do that. That would be awesome. I love that Angel Share, but today I did this unique kind of little guy. He looks like Krispy Kreme.
Oh wow! Look at that.
Yeah, well, I have to look it up. I'm not sure where it came from, but I didn't have time to look it up. I know who gave it to me, so. But yeah, that's I do not wake up in the mornings. I usually I wake up in the mornings, but I usually just like drink coffee, which I got my new coffee.
Hey, how did you get your hands on one of those? I've been asking to get one for the last 6 months. You must have
some special.
Yeah, that's right. You are special. All right, Jose.
One of the things also that we've talked about many, many times is the misconception that people have about wrappers. I've been in the stores and the seminars all over the world, and people see a very dark wrapper, a Maduro wrapper, and they go, oh, that's very strong. And I always tell people, never, ever judge a cigar by the color of the wrapper. What does Maduro mean? Maduro means ripe. It's a natural fermentation process that we do at the factory. So let's just take, for example, the Fuente Añejo, or any Fuente with a Connecticut broadleaf. That is an intense period of time that it takes with just water and heat to bring up the fermentation process and to try to unify the colors. But what are you picking up really? Let's say on the Añejo or Nate 5A Maduro, you're picking up that sweetness of Connecticut broadleaf. So you're talking about a cigar that's going to be around, I would say, 5.5, 6.5 in strength. But in flavor, what is it going to really be? It's going to be 10 on flavor, because at the end of the day, everything is about flavor, flavor, and flavor. That's my 2 cents on that.
That's right. That's absolutely right. We see it. We see it in Cameroon as well. Sometimes we go very high on the fermentation. You start getting tobaccos, which I call it cooking. You know, you start bringing all that darkness out, and you see the leaves transforming, the colors start evolving into darker and darker colors. I mean, that's what fermentation does. You're heating tobacco, and it's, in a way, it's cooking, right? And when you're cooking that product, it, depending on the type of leaf, depending on the type of gum and the type of structure it has, you can, some tobaccos can start getting darker. And you're absolutely right. That doesn't mean at all that it's going to get stronger. Quite the contrary. Sometimes the opposite happens, because what you're doing through the process of fermentation, and it's the same thing in winemaking and vinification, it's exactly the same fundamental principles, is you're basically removing your ammoniacs, you're removing the nitrates. And by doing that, you're bringing the level of aggressiveness, you're bringing the level of certain types of perceived strength down in a very important manner. And the tobaccos are becoming more and more smooth. They're becoming more and more, sometimes even sweet, like a very, very ripe tomato. And in those cases, there is absolutely no link between the actual color of the leaf and the perceived strength. Is that correct, Jose?
So totally agree. But not only that, a lot of people tend to confuse. So let's say you're taking Cameroon, or you could take Connecticut. And it doesn't matter Connecticut if it's grown in Ecuador or in the States, wherever. The fermentation process on that, it's just going to be at a very low temperature, or sometimes hardly anything, compared to a Connecticut broadleaf, where you're bringing that temperature up to 120, 130 degrees. Plus the fermentation process on that, and just leaving it there in los pilones, or las trojas, as the Cubans would say, is going to be longer than you're going to do it to a Connecticut, just a Connecticut or a Cameroon. Now, you got to remember, when we're talking about Cameroon, and you really are the experts on this, and this is not because it's my favorite wrapper, but also it's going to be the priming. What I love about Cameroon is when I see that year that you guys come up with those samples, and a lot of people, and you could get into more detail, that, we're not seeing, like the whole lots. Every bale of tobacco that you have has a number on it. I mean, I don't know if that's the way you still do it, but I remember we would see a bunch of leaves of tobacco. It would have like X103. And we would look at it, and then we would say, we want this bale, this bale, this bale, that bale, and that bale. And you would have primarily, you would always like those top, really dark, oily wrappers. But at the end of the day, if you guys would only sell that, then you wouldn't be in business today. So, and people don't understand that you got to take, you got to take the lower primings, and you do something different from there. You could use that for a binder. Then you're going to use your visos. You're going to use your ligeros on your top cigars. The more expensive the wrapper is, it's going to be on your most expensive cigars, limited edition, regionals. And it's the cost of doing business. I mean, that's my 2 cents. I'm not an expert on Meerapfel, but I think that's the way it is.
I think most tobacco growers, or most people in agriculture, face very similar challenges. There's a piece of the crop, whether you're selling tomatoes, whether you're selling, potatoes, or whether you're selling tobacco. At the end of the day, that's not what matters, but there's a piece that everybody wants. And, that's not what can keep any business alive. And that's probably valid for many businesses out there. And it's very important to understand that at the end of the day, agriculture is about, basically an entire crop, whatever you may growing, and you got to find a home for everything. Now, at the end of the day, the irony of this is that often, and this is true for Cameroon and true for many other crops as well, it's not because the tomato is ugly that it's not going to taste good. Quite the contrary. And you got these leaves that don't look great, but my God, do they taste delicious? And the consumers, it's very important to understand that at the end of the day, what you're looking for is taste. Jose, you spoke about it yesterday. You talked about the importance of taste. Christophe, I think, through his gastronomy I think will reflect the same thing. At the end of the day, we're looking for excellence in terms of taste, in terms of aromas, in terms of, reaching a certain level. And sometimes that'll look a little bit better. Sometimes that'll look a little bit worse. But at the end of the day, as long as the fat woman sings, man, that is perfect. That's what it's supposed to be, right?
I
That is so
100% agree
true.
with what you say. You're 100% right, Jeremy. It's fine. We work all the day with the chef to try to find the real touch, the real taste of a dish about the flavors. And then at the end of the day, when we reach the excellency, okay, we are very happy of what we make today. You're 100% right. Jeremy, do you see that you have a question? We have a question from Dallas. Did you see it?
Oh, look at that. There's questions coming in. Are you ready? You guys ready for questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So Dallas Edmondson, my friends, I hope you're well. I hope you're safe, Dallas. Anyways, we're going to read out your question and try to answer as best we can. So it says, does the vitola of the same cigar impact the strength? And if so, how? Professor,
that is, to be honest, that is one of the most controversial that we have all talked about, and everybody has an opinion. I'm going to tell you what my opinion is on this. It's on the ring gauge. Let's say you would take a 5.5 by 46 Corona Gorda on any cigar, and you take that same blend on a 6 by 60. And when I do my seminars, I would ask people, which has more strength? 80 to 85% of the people think it's the bigger ring gauge. And I tell them you're wrong. Because the ratio of filler to binder to wrapper, the smaller the ring gauge, you're smoking more wrapper. So if you were to smoke a 7 by 38 Lancero, and you would smoke a 7 by 70 cigar, a lot of people think it's going to be the bigger cigar, and it's not true, because the smaller the ring gauge, the more wrapper you're tasting. So if you, and I'm going to give you an example of that. Let's say you have a cigar, 5 by 50, with a Connecticut wrapper. The overall amount of flavor that you're going to get from the wrapper on a Connecticut is probably 20 to 22%. But you take that same cigar, the same filler and binder, and you put, let's say, a Corojo Ligero wrapper on it, it's going to be around 55 to 60. But you take that same blend in a Lancero, 7 by 38, and it's going to probably be 75 to 80% of the flavor is going to come from the wrapper. So the ring gauge is one of the most things that will impact the overall strength more than anything else in that. And that is one of the biggest misconceptions that cigar smokers all over the world have.
I agree with you. Professor, spot on. I hate to say this because you know very well that I don't like agreeing with you. Not 1 second. But I have to say that unfortunately you're spot on. I would even add maybe just a little bit, which is heat. And
oh yeah, the way you smoke, I agree with you 100%. And I don't like to agree with you.
You're not because I wasn't there yet.
Oh, okay.
But the 50 ring gauge and the 60 ring gauge and everything in between and everything underneath is not going to have the same amount of heat because of the draw. The draw on a cigar, the thicker the ring gauge, the more air is coming through. And so the concentration of the heat and the way it burns through the tobacco and the flavors, there's going to be a very big variance. And I believe that it joins 100% what you were saying earlier on. Often the irony is that if you take a smaller ring gauge, it's actually going to be a hell of a lot stronger, all things remaining equal.
I agree, totally agree. And I want you to tell something, you brought up heat. And when I'm doing my seminars, I go around the room, 30 or 40 people, and I ask, okay, you got a Robusto 5x50. How long does it take you to smoke? People say 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 1 hour. Some guy even said, I remember, I think it was in Alabama, I'll do it in 20 minutes. So everybody laughed. At the end of the day, every cigar has a rule of thumb. A Robusto 5x50. The bottom line, the line that you can't cross, you can't smoke a Robusto in less than 45 minutes. If you're smoking in less than 45 minutes, you're smoking totally incorrect. You have a 6x6, that's 2 hours.
Either you're smoking incorrectly or you're extremely nervous.
Yeah, well, or you're going to get sick, right?
Well, to be honest, you know, like I said, the Robustos is 45 minutes to an hour, hour and 10 minutes. You got a Toro, a 6x54, you're talking about 2 hours. You have a 7x70, you're talking close to 3 hours, or a Salomon. Because the problem with a lot of people is I hear, for years I've heard a lot of people say, well, I'm picking up a lot of sourness and a lot of bitterness in that cigar. And then I just observe how they're smoking. And what I'm seeing is they're puffing and puffing and puffing. So what happens when you heat up a lot of cigar and people think that the flavor is in the leaf, and it's not really about the leaf. It's the essential oils that wrapper, filler, and binder have. So when they're getting all that amount of heat, what happens really is that the essential oils where the flavor is going is totally, evaporating. It's like smoking paper. When somebody tells me they smoke a Robusto in 30 minutes, I said, what did you pick up? Well, I picked up this, I picked up that. I said, if you would have smoked that cigar in 50 to 60 minutes, I can guarantee you will pick up notes and flavors that you would not pick up the way you have been smoking the cigar. So the way that people smoke has a lot to do with the flavors and what they pick up in the smoke.
I think that
that's interesting.
What you're saying there needs to be brought back to the table when we have Christoph back here and ask him the same question in his kitchen, because I believe that in the cooking, it's exactly the same thing. If you take a beautiful piece of meat and that piece of meat is so hot, you're not going to taste anything anymore. Or if you take a beautiful soup and it's heated up to such a degree that when you put it in your mouth, all you feel is the pain and the heat rather than the taste. It's all linked together. Keeping the right ingredients at the right temperature for that bouquet to open up in your mouth and for the experience to be as beautiful and wide as possible. And people forget that often, that cigars is no different. It is no exception that if you want to taste the full spectrum of what the tobacco has to offer you, you got to make sure that you're cooking it properly. And cooking it properly means take it easy on the draw, make sure that cigar stays lit. But if you're going to start puffing and huffing way too quick, you're going to lose out on taste.
And the other thing, to be honest, and I mean, we've all talked about this, is how do people smoke? I mean, I've seen people just, I was at an event one day and I saw a guy from a company, very, very well-renowned company, smoke a cigar that it's very, very strong, that can knock your socks out. And I saw that guy smoke that cigar in 20 minutes. Houdini couldn't make it disappear as fast as that guy did that cigar. And I asked the guy, I told him, I think if you would have smoked the cigar a little bit slower, you would have picked up. He didn't really like it a lot. And then the store owner told him, he started to rant, I know this guy, he knows this guy. It was after an event, there were like 6 or 7 people left there. And they brought him a Cigar Aficionado magazine, and they showed him and had 5 or 6 pictures of me. And then he said, people have always said that I'm an asshole. Confirmed today, I'm an asshole. So the main thing was...
Jose, don't listen to anything everybody ever tells you, okay? Let me stop you there for a second. I thought that we didn't have a guest of honor today, but actually we do. I see
Really?
that we have the biggest guest of honor that we could ever dream. Let me see if I can get her voice on the line here. We actually have today Mrs. Liana Fuente, who is amongst us. And let me see if I can get Liana to speak. Hold on, let me turn on the mic. Liana, can you hear us? I don't know if this works. Liana, can you talk in the mic? I don't know if we can get this to work, but I'd love, talking permitted? No? All right. It's not working. That's a pity. I would have loved to get Liana on the show, but we will make sure to get her as a guest of honor, the biggest guest of honor, because my God, there's nobody nicer to listen to and to look at than Liana Fuente.
Aw, that's
all
awesome.
Right.
I'm excited to meet her.
Yeah, all right. But the technical thing's not working here. So let's disable this and we'll just continue. Anyways, so back to you, Jose.
So what I was saying is that the guy after that, you know, he was very thankful, and throughout the years, he's gone to all my events and that. He's big on social media, but he said that that day he realized that he was just killing himself smoking 7 or 8 of those cigars, and now he's down to 3 or 4. He's enjoying them more. I think that one of the things we need in our industry, look, the bottom line, we got to make money, we got to make sales, we got to create awareness. But part of our, I've always said that part of our duties is also to educate the consumer. The more educated the consumer is, the more he can go to his retailer and really talk about it. The more educated the retailer is, it's better for the consumer. So it's something that works both ways. And I've always believed that the knowledge that we have to share it with the store owners, with the consumers, with our family, with the future generations, because that's the only way that's going to happen. This is not something you learn in a university. You can learn in a university. You can learn in a university, you know, business plan, a marketing plan, numbers and all that. But growing tobacco, blending tobacco, smoking cigars, that's something that comes really from the heart and the passion that you have about that. If not, just look at Jeremiah's family, 150-something years, and the Fuente 100-something also years. I mean, it's been generation after generation after generation. And I know that Jeremiah's kids, I think you'll want your kids to continue the business too.
Yeah, absolutely. I say it's like a culture that you have to continue. Otherwise, you're going to lose all. It's just like any other business. You lose the culture. You kind of lose the product and the brand and what it stands for and what people buy it for.
I think this is what we live by. You know, the family's been in the business now. I think between the Fuente and Meerapfel families, we've been in business for over 250 years and 9 generations. I mean, that's, I think it says a lot to the commitment that we have, but more so to the love and the passion, the sacrifices which we're willing to make. This is a very challenging industry. It's one where if you're not completely in love with it, you got to really hang on, and you do it because you love it. You do it because you respect it. You do because you love the people that are part of it, the consumers out there, the retailers, everybody who's part of this industry is unique. Very, very few industries in the world, have the chance and have the uniqueness of being able to perpetuate such values and
I like how the industry is all able to sit down and smoke a cigar together. That's what's cool about our industry, is that we can all sit down and have a good time. I think that's, you know, one of the things that I was working with was Dennis before this. And oh my gosh, it was like everybody was out for each other because they're all, you know, brick and mortar and pretty much have to be there for themselves. So it's awesome to be in a place like this.
I agree. We got another bunch of questions coming in, and we better start addressing them before it gets too late. Let's see here. Strength regarding cuts. Now, this is a question that comes in from Art Bowker. Hello, Art. We hope that you're safe.
Hi, Art.
And we hope that you're well. All right. So, obviously, some cigars, due to their shape, require a particular cut. Now, does that cut work better with any particular cigars, or is it just personal choice? Professor?
Well,
Hold on a second. Forget the professor. Melanie, what's your favorite cut?
Oh, well, my favorite cut would probably be a V cut, just because I don't like the filling to come all out in my mouth sometimes.
What about you? What about you, Mr. Brochard? You like a V cut? You like a punch? Or you just like a nice clean cut? Or do you use your teeth to chop the back of the cigar with?
I prefer to use my teeth.
For some reason, I'm not surprised. What about you, Professor?
Look, it's a very valid question. I'm not a big fan of the V cut, to be honest. I've gotten, when the V cuts came out, most manufacturers, they sent it out to me as a gift. I was very happy. I use them occasionally. I like more a straight cut. But also, a lot of people like to use the bullet. There's nothing wrong with using the bullet, except that a lot of people use the bullet totally incorrect. You know, nowadays we have nowadays a lot of people, a lot of companies have made these big bullets for big ring gauges. But many years ago, you would see somebody with that little bullet trying to take it out on a cigar that would be a 54. So what happens? When you have that small little hole, that tar starts to build up and you start to pick up some bitterness. And I remember at a lot of shops, I would see a lot of people say, well, I'm picking up some bitterness on a cigar. And I would say, could I see your cigar a minute? And they would give it to me. Sometimes they thought I was going to puff on it. I would say, and I would see it was, I started smoking with a bullet, and I would say, would you allow me? And then I would go and straight cut it for them and give it to them and tell them, puff on it now. And all of a sudden they would say, what the hell did you do to it? Why am I not picking up the bitterness? And I said, because you have a 54 ring gauge and you're using a bullet that's really for a Corona or a Corona Gorda. So there has to be a ratio. If you want to use the bullet, you have to use it on the size where it really opens up the hole enough that that tar doesn't build up. Also, what's going to happen with that is that you know that a lot of people saliva a lot when they're smoking. You have people that saliva a lot, and you have people that we call them dry smokers. So that has
Let me take a guess. Let me take a guess, Jose.
Yeah.
What are you? Are you a dry smoker or do you drool?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Me? It depends. To be honest, it depends on the cigar and it depends a lot on the wrapper. I don't know why.
For me, it depends on the company.
I don't like to get my cigar wet, but look who was passing by. Oh, it's all over.
Another question?
Of course. Loads of questions. There's a question that came in from Liana. Now, we're trying to get Liana to get on the show, but for some reason and technical issues, it's not happening. However, we will reach out and hopefully get her as a video.
Would you be able to, maybe we could ask her a question and she can type it in and you can share it that way?
Yeah, well, there's a question. She has a question right here. It says, hold on a second. Let me figure this out. This is one for you, the professor. Here we go. Jose.
Yeah.
Liana's asking you, please talk about combustion. Tell us about combustion.
That's a good topic. I don't get that question a lot, to be honest, but and I don't know why. Look, combustion has a lot to do with how the tobaccos were fermented It has a lot to do how the tobaccos were aged, but also very, very important how the cigars are made. We're not going to get into details because we're never going to talk. If we don't have anything good to say about a company, we will never say it. But that we all know that sometimes we see a lot of cigars that have burning issues. Two things could happen. It could be basically on construction, and it also has a lot to do with the types of tobacco. How many times have we seen a cigar that all of a sudden you're seeing the wrapper is burning and you could see the binder under there? What happened? That company by mistake was using a very light, a very low priming, could have been a Seco, and they started to use as a binder a Ligero. So one of the main things that's why people don't really know how complicated and how much, not science, but experience go into making cigars. You have to make that binder and that wrap burn perfectly with the fillers that are in there. And one thing is, and you can look at cigars at the foot, and you're always going to see in the foot of the cigar, in the middle, the viso or the ligero. Because if that roller that day has not put that viso or that ligero in the right spot, it's going to canoe or it's going to side burn on you. So I don't know if that's what Liliana is referring to, but combustion has a lot to do also with the types of tobacco.
Jose, I have we spoke this, not between me and you, but I spoke with some other tobacco makers, and they were talking about a stem. There's a stem in every cigar. Is that so that it can keep the, I know you're not supposed to have stems in the cigar, so is there another word for that? But it keeps it lit, or keeps it, the ash.
No, on the contrary, if you have stems, like I picked up stems on cigars, that's one of the most bitter things that you have. That's the stems. You don't want stems in a cigar. I mean, there's people that have theorized about stems and things like that, and that's one thing that I respect people's opinion. But the last thing you want in a cigar is a stem, and we've seen it on social media. How many people, when they found a stem in XYZ brand, people are not happy about it. The last thing you want is stem into your cigars. Take my word on that.
Now, if that's Jose respecting people's opinion, I don't want to see what it's like when he doesn't respect somebody's opinion.
All right. I got some other questions. I got a question for Jeremiah. So I asked people if they wanted to ask questions on here. So one of them was, I love Fuente's marketing. And, you were talking about getting to the distributors, obviously helping people find the best cigars and everything. And so I'm just wondering, why not have more distribution of those cigars that they'd be able to get? Is it just because of the amount of tobacco that takes, you have to be able to produce those or create?
Yeah, I
mean, the time that it takes?
Production is a big issue. I mean, particularly with brands like Fuente, where there's no compromise on anything. What you find with certain manufacturers is that, like everything in life, there's a way of going from A to B. You can produce a cigar, and that production is going to start somewhere and it's going to finish somewhere. Now, the challenging part is that the more difficulties and the less concessions you make to get to the best possible product, the more difficult it becomes. If you decide that you want... I
like what Fuente, she just said that you can only slice a piece of bread so thin.
Exactly. That's exactly it. If you want to use the best tobaccos in the world and you want to roll them in a particular way, and then everything that goes around that, it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of money. Now, obviously, there's only a certain amount of resources to be able to do that. And so certain brands, and this is not what this show is about, so I'm not going to start naming anything or anybody, but certain brands tend to do that a lot better than others. And therefore, they cannot meet the demand. It's not possible. It's impossible. And this is true for any premium product in the world, whether it's for an Hermes bag, where people are on 6 years waiting lists to be able to get one, or it's for Patek Philippe watches, or whatever it is.
Jewelry or gold, I would say, would be there you go.
Yeah, that's it. Certain types of jewelries, it's so difficult and so expensive to get it to that level. But forget, trying to reach demand. That's not what this is all about. Yeah. It's about no compromise. It's about making the best product in the world. And as a manufacturer, as a tobacco grower, whatever it is, you need to make a choice. Now, is your choice selling, or is your choice perfection in quality? And there's going to be a gap between those two.
I don't know. Talk to your mother.
I like that. Makes great sense. Yeah. There was another question that I just saw pop up, and they were,
Talk to your mother.
Oh, humidity. What kind of humidity is the best place to keep your cigars so that they stay the best, freshest, the longest? Do you open a brand new pack of cigars immediately, or you put them in the humidity for a while?
Yeah, I think that very, very much depends on the type of tobacco that you're using. I see Liana just posted, it depends on the wrapper, and that's absolutely accurate. You want to be very careful. Every type of tobacco has a propensity to absorb humidity in a different way. And that's true for any material in the world. Different materials will absorb humidity in a different way.
Oh,
now, obviously, what you don't want to do is you don't want a type of tobacco to over-absorb humidity, because it's going to change the burning characteristics, and it's going to change the taste characteristics, and it could also damage the cigar, because it could break. At a certain point, it could start breaking, or it could start modifying the physical aspect of the tobacco. So on certain types of tobacco, for example, our tobaccos with Cameroon, they're very, very, very thin, delicate leaves that absorb humidity in a different way than, for example, let's say an Ecuador sun-grown, for example. And therefore, what certain manufacturers will do, or what certain consumers will do, is they will try to keep different types of tobaccos in different types of humidity levels to be able to best preserve them, and for those cigars to taste their best.
That's interesting. Cigars are so interesting.
Jose, you want to maybe add to that a little bit?
Yes, and it's not easy with Jasper around here wanted to go.
I think it's wonderfully interesting, and I think we should actually get him on the show, because he's a hell of a lot better looking than his father is.
He's hilarious too.
Jasper, they want to see your face a minute. Come here. Oh, we'll go then. They want to see your face a minute. Say hello to everybody.
World, say hi to Jasper.
Okay, Jeremiah, you hit it right on you hit it right spot on. But, I think what a lot of people want to hear also, they ask, there's a rule of thumb, because everybody doesn't know tobacco like we know tobacco. So the really rule of thumb is you've got to keep everything 70 degrees temperature and 70 degrees humidity. Mm-hmm. That said, I have cigars that I keep at 65, and I have cigars that I keep at 72. And you're absolutely right. A Cameroon and a Connecticut, doesn't matter from where, is not going to be the same as a cigar with a Connecticut broadleaf, or a Mexican San Andres, or an Arapiraca from Brazil, or let's say a Habano from Esteli. But not everybody's a scientist, but the rule of thumb is more or less 70-70. And there's a lot of people that really, they question about us. And you hit it right on the spot when it comes up to humidity on some types of wrapper. Because if you have, let's say, a box of Don Carlos or a box of Hemingways, and you go on vacation for a month, and that hydrometer goes down to, let's say, 40 or 45, and when you come back and you light up that cigar, you can be sure that wrapper is going to split. But at the same time, let's say that because you just overdose your humidity with solution, and while you were out for a month, that humidity went up to 80 or 85. When you come back, two things are going to happen. Your cigars are going to be very, very spongy. And what's even worse, you could have created mold. And that is something that people tend to confuse. One thing is mold, and one thing is plume. You want a cigar to have plume on it, but you don't want a cigar to have mold on it.
Oh, that's absolutely right.
So what is plume versus mold?
Okay, plume is gonna be, look, what is plume? Plume is the crystallization of the essential oils on a wrapper. So it's gonna look like a little white little dust thing that if you put your finger on it, it's gonna go away. Now mold, you're gonna see in a lot of ways. You can see it at the foot of the cigar with like a white foam. Sometimes you're gonna see a bluish, and sometimes you're gonna see a greenish. So when you see that, don't be scared of the plume, but really be scared of the mold, because that's our cigars that are over humidified.
Oh, that's right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I have a question, Jeremiah.
Well, it's good timing for you because right now, in a few seconds, we're going to Brochard's Baked.
Brochard's baked, yes. Do you hear me, Jeremiah?
Loud and clear.
Do you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
I have a question for you guys. You speak about cigar with fermentation, how to keep it, about humidity. For me, it looks like a bottle of wine. So my question is, if the process of fermentations continue after when the cigar leaves the factory, is it better to keep the cigar and taste it later, 1, 2, 3 years later, or is it better to taste it directly when it leaves the factory?
I'll put it to you this way, and this is, I think, one of the misconceptions that people have. Of course, tobacco, cigars with time are going to get better. But what people don't understand is, and I see it on Facebook all the time, oh, I bought this box of cigars 3 years ago, and I put it away for 3 years, and I lit it up, and it's bad. A bad cigar is going to be a bad cigar today, in a month, in 10 years, in 20 years. People don't understand that. You could pick up a box of cigars, X brand, and you could pick up some youngness on it. And of course, if you put it away, it's going to get better. But if you right away off the bat, you start to pick up that cigar and you pick up that nasty metallic youngness, ammonium taste to it. I mean, if you want to buy that box and really put it away for a year, you're just wasting your money. Because majority of cigar makers, they ferment their tobacco, they age their tobacco, they make the cigars. And of course, some cigars in time are going to get better than others. But a bad cigar today is going to be a bad cigar in a year, 2 years, 20 years. A good cigar today is going to be better in a year. It's going to be better in 2 years. It's going to be better in 3 years. And after a certain time, let's say you had a cigar, then when the blend was made, it was 10 on the flavor scale, and it was 8 on the strength. That cigar in 3 years, the flavor is going to go down to 8, and that strength that was 8 is probably going to go to 6. Now the cigar is going to mellow out more. It's going to burn more. It might be even more complex. But a cigar, after time goes by, of course, we're talking about medium, full, and strong cigars will really hold on for a long time. And also how you properly store your cigars.
That's it. That's it. Thank you, Jose. Now, back to you, Benoit, because please entertain everybody for a couple of seconds or a couple of minutes on Benoit's Baked.
I'm ready. Ready now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But before to make the Benoit's Baked show, we have another question about from smoking tobacco. Does lighting with shadow sticks enhance the flavor of the cigar? Professor?
Let me tell you something. There's many myths about that. And what I've told people about that, there's a lot of people that will not light up a cigar if it's not with cedar. There's a lot of people that will not light it up if it's not with a soft flame. Other people love torch. Other people use matches. There's nothing wrong with matches as long as you let the sulfur burn on that. The only thing you never light a cigar up with is with a Zippo lighter that has fluid. You could use the Zippo with the torch in it, but not the Zippo lighter because of the fumes. When you hit a Zippo lighter, right away fumes come up. Sometimes you got to hit it 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, but that. With cedar, it's very elegant, but in my personal opinion, it's not going to change the flavor of the cigar, because what a cigar needs is just fire, not on top of it, a certain distance for you to really light it up. I see people taking a torch and they go on like they think they're drilling, through a hole and again and again and again. You have to keep the flame at a certain distance, even with the match, even with the big light, or even with the soft flame. So personally, my opinion, there's people that could have different opinions on it, but I don't think that lighting up with cedar is going to make any difference. A lot of people like it. I respect it. But to me, I've maybe lit up 60 or 65,000 cigars in my life, and maybe I've used cedar twice, maybe.
Wow, that's incredible.
I agree with you. I think to bring it one step further, the tobacco growers and the cigar makers are spending a lot of time and energy getting that taste just right. And the last thing we want is for somebody to start bringing an exterior taste into the product, which could possibly, influence it or modify it anyway. So me personally, I'm using a normal flame, just a normal flame or one of these torch flames. But again, be very careful with the heat. Keep the heat as far as you can from the cigar. And remember, when you're using butane, there is no residue, there's no taste, there's nothing. Well, so at the end of the day, what we want is we want to keep it as true to the original blend, true to the original product as possible. No cedar for Meerapfel.
Same with me. I'm on board on that one. Even though a cigar wrapped in cedar is very elegant and it gives you certain notes to it.
I'm talking
to light up with cedar?
I'm talking about burnt cedar. Burnt cedar.
I'm talking about burnt cedar. I agree with you 100%.
You better agree with me.
Yes, and
we all agree with you, Jeremy.
All right, back to you, Benoit.
Back to me. About?
You're gonna crack us up.
I don't people a joke today. Today I would like to speak about things happen in the restaurant because a lot of funny things happen, and maybe how are we gonna start? Maybe a long memory, long times before, 10 years ago when I was starting in the restaurant. I remember this, and I would like to share with you guys. Everybody know what beef tartare is?
Beef tartare?
Yeah.
Okay. So we say in Belgium, we say beef tartare, we call that an American. So I work in a small restaurant in the center of Brussels. And then I had a woman take for the order a beef tartare. Beef tartare is excellent, yes. And then 10 minutes after that, I bring his order, and I wait 2-3 minutes, and then she called me back. yes, madam, how can I help you? How is everything so far for you? And she told me, excuse me, sir, but the beef tartare is too raw. I mean, yes, it's a beef tartare, it's a raw meat. And you know what she answered me, Jeremiah?
What?
Yes, I know what a beef tartare is, but there is too raw. So I have to bring it back to the kitchen, wait 5 minutes, and then I bring back the same dish, the same plate to the table, and then she was happy with that. That's it. That's life. That's things happen in the restaurant. I already see. It was in the Flanders, and it was as a starter, a razor shell clams. You know what I see? Razor shell clams.
What?
Razor shell clams.
Bro, I don't understand your French accent. What are you saying?
Un couteau, Jérémia. Un couteau. Razor shell clams.
Razor. Okay, for all you American people out there like me, it's a razor shell clam.
Thank you, Jean.
Razor shell clam.
So we prepare a small starter on it, and then the people has to use a spoon normally to eat it. But I have someone tried. I was busy in the dining room, and then I heard a noise, crunch, 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 and I saw someone was eating the razor shell clams, the entire one. So with the shell.
Oh my God.
Yes, that's happened only in the restaurant. Oh, another one memories was an a birthday, an anniversary in Paris, and it was a table of Russian people, and then we bring the birthday cake at the end of the meal with a candle. And then we say, okay, for the young boy, happy birthday. Then we are singing to the happy birthday track. And then a noise, another one, crunch, crunch, crunch. And we say, okay, you can't breathe on the candle. But where is the candle? The boys eating the candle.
Oh my God.
Voilà. We saw a lot of things, and the most difficult things for us is to stay. You know, we can laugh about it. We have just to stay serious, and we're gonna bring another one candle. But he did it. We have. I saw someone already hit a langoustine as well. Langoustine, the entire with the shell. And I will give you another memory. It was in Brussels. Everybody understand me?
Yeah, more or less. If not, we're just
more or less.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Okay, thank you. It was in Brussels, and I had a special guest called Shimon Perez.
Oh.
It was 7 years ago. And it was in a beautiful restaurant, a restaurant that I recommend you, called the Comme Chez Soi. And then during the briefing, we say who was going to be in charge of this table. And then my boss, my chef, told me, okay, Benoit, tonight you are in charge of the table of Shimon Perez. Okay, great. So I was stuck in the kitchen with one table. Everything was in the kitchen was booked for Mr. Shimon Perez. And take the order. I remember Shimon Perez took a pigeon for the main dish. I had to change the cutlery and bring a sharp knife to eat the pigeon. And you know what happened when I bring the knife on the table?
The security jumped you.
the security guys. That's right. That's right. I have two guys of the Mossad in the room, and then I took the knife out of the box to place on the right of Simon Perez, and then directly, one guy's run from me, and the other one has the finger on the trigger, ready to shot, ready to kill on me. Voila. Especially the people doesn't know how it's so dangerous to work in a restaurant. I hope that you agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, now it's probably just dangerous to eat in them.
Oh, yeah.
Moral of the story, when you have an Israeli prime minister in your restaurant, do not pull a knife out at him.
No, really not.
All right.
Or just one of the security guards before.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're coming to an end of our second edition, our second show of Meet the Professor. I would like to thank everybody here at the show today. Melanie, the professor, obviously our baked Benoit, for participating. I would like to thank all of you for being here today. Remember, this is not about cigars. This is about people. Like Carlito would say, it's not about cigars. It's about people. The show is intended to bring some love, to bring some laughter, and to bring some good moments into each of your households. It's important for us to stay connected. It's important for us to be able to continue communicating with all of you and to spread the love. We love you very, very much. One thing which I'd like to tell you is that as of tomorrow, we will slightly modify some of the dynamics of the show. We are hoping to be able to bring on some of you once in a while. So we won't be able to do 1 million people, but 1 or 2 people per show. We're going to pull you onto the show. You'll be able to ask your questions live with your voices rather than just putting them up on the Q&A. We're also going to try to get the guest of honor, Liana Fuente, to join us tomorrow if she has the time. On Wednesday, we have the honor of having Rocky Patel coming on the show and spending...
Yay! That's awesome.
Our good friend Rocky. This Friday, we are hoping to get Daniel Marshall on. So there's going to be plenty of people coming on the show, plenty of good stories for you guys, lots of fun, lots of good moments, and hopefully this makes it a little bit easier for everybody, for us, for you, to get through these moments. We love you very much. Thank you very much. We love you.
Yeah.
Goodbye for now.
Be safe.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Take care.
Take care.
Mwah.